In case you haven't noticed, I cover Golden Terrace or Wang by苍梧宾白a lot on this channel. I really love the English translation by Peach Flower House, and I will say this again and again. It is, in my opinion, one of the best translated Dan-mei ever printed. In the novel, Fu Shen and Yan Xiaohan get married on the day of the flower festival, Jie. Like a lot of festivals that follow the lunar calendar, the exact date of Jie changes from year to year. This year, it will be celebrated around March 1, or so Google tells me. Since it's almost time for Jie, I wanted to give my interpretations of two symbolic items from the novel, jade pendants or Yu Pei, and the double lotus flower or Bingdilian. Please be warned that there will be spoilers if you haven't read Golden Terrace yet. If you've read a lot of historical Dan-mei, they will often note that references to jade, yu, in the text does not mean the green jade that most people are familiar with, which is made of the mineral jadeite. Instead, the jade being referred to is white jade, which is from the mineral nephrite. Real nephrite jade has an even, smooth texture throughout, and can only be cut by tools which are at least as strong as a steel nail. It is said that the ancient Chinese peoples valued jade because it symbolizes benevolence, propriety, integrity, and other positive social values. A quote attributed to Confucius goes like this: 如之美，又如君子之德. The beauty of jade is like the virtue of a gentleman. Therefore, wearing a jade pendant became a way to signal virtue. In Book 1 of Golden Terrace, there's a scene where Fu Shen is going back home after visiting a political refugee, then realizes halfway that he lost his jade pendant and turns back to the refugee's house, only to find that Yan Xiaohan has followed him there to arrest the refugee by order of the emperor. Yan Daren gives him back his jade pendant, and Fu Shen gets into an argument with him. It ends with Fu Shen declaring, "From now on, you and I are like this piece of jade," and angrily throws his jade pendant on the ground, where it breaks into pieces. He then gallops away on his horse. Here's a question for you. Why did Fu Shen bother to turn around to find his jade pendant only to throw it onto the ground? We know that Fu Shen's jade pendant was from his second uncle, who is basically a father figure to him, and that alone would have been enough reason for him to look for the lost pendant. As for why he threw it hard enough to break it, the basic answer is, of course, because he was angry with Yan Xiaohan. But to understand just how angry Fu Shen was, let's look at two lines he spoke in the novel. The first line is, "When a gentleman conducts himself in society, there are actions he takes and actions he must not take." And the second line is, "There are some things in this world that have to be done by someone." Clearly, Fu Shen has a strong sense of responsibility and propriety, and aims to act like a gentleman. Maybe except for when he's threatening prisoners or capturing geese to send letters to his wife, but that's a story for another time. There's an old Chinese saying that goes, 君子无故，有不出身. A gentleman will not take off his jade without reason. So I could argue that Fu Shen, turning back to look for the jade pendant, shows that he is willing to undergo difficulties in order to protect what he believes is morally good. This is a personality trait that does end up making his life harder in Golden Terrace. When Fu Shen realizes that Yan Xiaohan, whom he previously called his friend, his Yanxiong, his Gege, has been deceiving him all this time, he breaks the jade pendant, and with it, all that he believed to be good and true about his Yanxiong is also destroyed. It is revealed in a later scene that Yan Xiaohan picks up what pieces he can of the pendant and gets a craftsman to restore it by joining the pieces together with gold. But of course, it's never going to be the same as it used to be. I think the use of gold here to restore the pendant is also symbolic of how Yan Xiaohan expresses affection towards Fu Shen by giving Fu Shen material gifts. Prior to his betrayal in their youth, Yan Xiaohan invites Fu Shen to a restaurant in the city, hires a carriage for him to ride home, and fills the carriage with gifts, including a new bow to replace Fu Shen's broken one. This tendency continues in other parts of the novel. For example, when Fushen has to return to the northern border before their wedding day, Yan Xiaohan sends him several gifts, since they spend the new year apart from each other. And after their wedding, Yan Xiaohan shows Fushen the changes he's made to his house. No, sorry, I mean his manor, to make it more accessible for Fushen's wheelchair to navigate. Before their wedding day, Fushen sends Yan Xiaohan a gift of a second, fully intact jade pendant, which makes Yan Xiaohan lose sleep because he doesn't know if it means that he's been forgiven by Fushen, or if it means that Fushen is reminding him of his past betrayal and that he is getting married to Yan Xiaohan against his will. Fortunately, the first interpretation is correct. With the gift of the new jade pendant, Fushen is perhaps showing that he knows they are no longer the people that they used to be, and he is willing to let go of his past hurts and give Yan Xiaohan a chance to redeem himself in Fushen's eyes. Fushen turns up on the wedding day as promised, and during the ceremony says this to Yan Xiaohan: "Before I went out on campaign back then, you made a wish, hoping that I would hate you for the rest of my life. Now, that wish has failed to come true. I no longer hate you, Yanshong." I'm not crying. You're crying. Moving on. In my full review of Golden Terrace, I noted that the page divider is in the shape of a double lotus flower, or Bingdilian. A double lotus is the exact same species as the normal sacred lotus, except that a chance mutation produces two flowers on the same stem. According to information I found on the internet, which I cannot verify, the chances of getting a double lotus flower is 1 for every 100,000 lotus plants. Although attempts to breed double lotus flowers have allegedly increased the chances to 1 in every 100 lotus plants, it is still not possible to grow a whole field of double lotus flowers. In Chinese culture, the Bingdilian represents a happy marriage. Just like the two lotus blossoms share the same roots, a husband and wife share the same life. And since we know that double lotuses cannot be grown commercially, or at least not yet, I would also say that the Bingdilian represents a sincere relationship, one that cannot be forced or faked, and is therefore rare and beautiful. Which is why, during my first read-through of Golden Terrace, I was as confused as Fushen was when, during the very first time he and Yan Xiaohan meet each other, Yan Xiaohan drops a Bingdilian onto Fushen's collar before leaving with the rest of the emperor's entourage. Yan Xiaohan was flirting with him, of course, but was it like a casual "hey" in your DMs, or did it mean more? The Bingdilian was thrown by some random in the crowd, aimed at Fushen's head, and Yan Xiaohan just happened to catch it. Also, this scene took place during a springtime festival, when flowers were abundant, so the author could have used any flower for this scene, and yet decided to use a Bingdilian. So, was Yan Xiaohan telling Fushen, "I intend to marry you"? I don't think so, because Fushen is 16 during this scene, and when they meet again in the autumn of the same year on the mountain, Yan Xiaohan still considers Fushen a child. And even if they had both been what is considered in the world of Golden Terrace as marrying age, the stark difference in their social statuses would have meant that Yan Xiaohan would be extremely daring if he offered to marry Fushen. Fushen is the grandson of the Duke of Ying, whereas Yan Xiaohan is the adopted son of a palace eunuch. Yan Xiaohan says over and over throughout the novel that he and Fushen are worlds apart. One belongs to heaven and the other belongs to the earth. I therefore choose to interpret Yan Xiaohan dropping a Bingdilian on Fushen as him knowing that he met Fushen purely by luck, a moment as rare and beautiful as a Bingdilian, and that their chances of having any connection, as friends or something more, was just the wishful thinking of an 18-year-old. Well, we all know how that went. On their wedding day, people are again throwing flowers on the streets in celebration. Fushen manages to catch a Bingdilian and gives it to Yan Xiaohan. His most impossible wish has been fulfilled. He and Fushen are married. Husband and wife are one. And those are my thoughts about the references to jade and double lotus flowers in Golden Terrace. If you enjoy deep dives into Tanyei novels like this, leave me a comment on which novel you'd like to see a deep dive about.